Maintaining foreign languages is a topic that I have been thinking and writing and speaking about for such a long time now. I have been learning and maintaining my own languages for over a decade. I spent almost 2 years writing this book, How to Maintain Languages, which I'll leave a link for in the description. And I've also made tons of videos and worked with tons and tons of students and clients over the years, trying to help people maintain languages. Now, today, I want to basically give you what, after all these years, I think is just the absolute number one piece of advice. The one thing that if you do this, I really think that you'll get massive results, and potentially this alone will carry you through to maintaining your languages. It'll certainly make a huge difference. Now, please do stick around to the end, because I'm going to give you not only sort of a summary and some examples from my own life, but I'm also going to give you a framework that you can start using today. And I'm going to be using some really powerful ideas from this book, Atomic Habits by James Clear, which I've really been enjoying reading. And I read something the other day and I was like, this is it. This is so important. I have to share this. Now, lastly, if you like this video and you get value from it, please do give me a like and a subscribe. It makes me really happy, and I check those numbers every single day. Jumping in, if I had to give you one word, it is essentially exposure. Now, this may seem simple, but what happens to lots of people is we sort of fall behind in a language or several languages, depending on what you're doing. And we tend to always put it off and we say, well, look, now I'm behind. I'm not really in the rhythm. I'll get back to it later. And what happens is that we end up with no exposure for long periods of time. This has happened to me over and over again. And it's not just with languages, it's other skills that I have and hobbies that I have as well. So any kind of exposure that you can get on a somewhat regular basis, I'm telling you, it will have a tremendous impact on how slowly or quickly your language skills deteriorate. So this could be watching a TV show or a film, it could be reading a chapter of a book, or even just a page of a book, or a simple article online. It could be listening to a podcast episode, or having a small chat with someone, writing a journal entry in that language. Any of these things, I promise you, even just on a weekly or bi-weekly basis, it will help so much. Now, let me give you 2 examples from my own language learning, and then we'll jump into that framework you can implement. So French is a language that I speak really well, and it's been one of my best languages for a long time, but I also haven't been studying it actively for several years now, but I've maintained it pretty well. Now, part of that is, of course, that I got to a really high level, and so it's easier to maintain. But another part is that I have a friend in France. She's one of my closest friends, and we exchange audio messages on WhatsApp. Now, we only do this literally once every week, sometimes once every 2 weeks, and sometimes not even for like more than once or twice in a month. But I can tell you that 5 or 10 minutes of sort of listening that I get when I'm listening to her message, and then the 5 or 10 minutes of me speaking when I respond to her, it's amazing how helpful that has been over the years in keeping my French pretty sharp. Now, a second example, which I think is even more helpful, is a comparison of my German and my Portuguese skills right now. Portuguese and German are 2 languages that I have both of them gotten to a pretty solid level several times, but I've never gotten either one of them to a really high level to where they sort of maintain themselves quite easily. So they both atrophy quite quickly. Now, with German, I have really had such little exposure over the last couple of years. I've hardly spoken German at all. I don't read things in German. I just haven't used it much. Whereas Portuguese, I don't use it much either, but I've had exposure to it. So every now and again, I'll have like an Uber or Lyft driver from Brazil, and I'll get to have like a 3 to 4 or 5 minute conversation in Portuguese, or I'll meet someone, or recently I found I have a new coworker who speaks Portuguese as well. And I have found that my Portuguese level is so much better than my German, even though it is rusty, but just those sort of intermittent bits of exposure have helped to slow down how rusty my Portuguese has gotten. But now I want to get into the second part of this advice, because ideally you don't want to just sort of slow down the atrophy of your language skills. You'd like to be improving those skills over time. And so here is the number one thing I think that you can do. It is to create a single, simple daily habit of getting exposure to the language. Even just 10 minutes of any kind of exposure per day, I guarantee you will help you so much in the long run, and not just maintaining your language skills, but also improving them. And I really now want to give you this super powerful idea that I got from Atomic Habits. In the book, he talks a lot about how we tend to, as humans, overestimate the value of a single moment in time, a sort of successful moment, and we undervalue each little moment that it took to get to that point. So in language learning, we may look back and remember, oh, that one time I had this really good, genuine conversation with somebody in German. Or maybe like that one time I went to France for a week. And we'll think, oh yeah, that really helped me become good at French. But we tend to forget like all the individual moments that we spent learning and studying and practicing that led to that point. And so the cool thing is that you have an opportunity to have one of those moments every single day, and it only takes 10 minutes. Of course, if you have 15, if you have 30, that's amazing, but even just 10 minutes. And the really, truly powerful idea that I got from this book that pertains to this video is the idea of improving 1% every day versus declining 1% every day. Now, in the book, he has this sort of graph, which I've very scientifically reproduced for you. But the idea is that this sort of curve here shows how if you were to improve a skill by 1% every day, after 1 year, you will have gotten 37 times better than you were when you started. 37 times. Now contrast that with if you decline by 1% every day, you will actually be almost back to zero by the end of 1 year, no matter where you started. And so I think we all know that feeling, right? Where you have a language and then you haven't studied it for quite a long time and it almost feels like you're back to zero. You know you're not quite at zero, but it feels like you're not too far off. And so I realize that this is a little bit abstract and okay, what does 1% really mean? But I think the idea is so powerful here. It's that if you can just improve your language skills in any way at all every single day, then by the end of 1 year, you're not just going to have maintained your Spanish or your Japanese or your Portuguese, but likely you will have gotten better, right? And maybe even a lot better, because every day you've given yourself one of those moments that all sort of lead up to success. And again, it's not that difficult to just make 10 minutes. So it could be 10 minutes of sort of reading a page of a book, right? Or anything. And so to really tie this home and give you one more piece of structure around this, I would say, make sure that you make that 10 minutes or 15 minutes or 30 minutes count. So if you only have 30 minutes or less per day, what I would suggest is doing a sort of rotation. So let's say you decide that you want to read a chapter of a book, right? Maybe the book is quite long and it's hard and it would take you weeks and weeks, but maybe you just say, I'm going to read a chapter. So I'm going to spend 10 minutes every day reading this chapter. Once you finish that chapter, you could rotate and now do something that sort of activates a different skill, such as speaking or listening or writing. Of course, if you're more ambitious, you could just say, I'm going to read this book. When I finish the book, then I'm going to rotate and then I'm going to start listening to podcasts every day, and that'll be my thing. But I would say that, again, if you just have a short period of time every day, doing anything at all will be great. But to really take it to the next level, have sort of an intelligent rotation that makes sure that you're sort of getting exposure and activating the different sort of 4 language skills: reading, listening, speaking, and writing. So I'm telling you, I cannot stress enough how powerful this is. At the end of the day, the quality of your language learning and your success is going to be directly correlated to the quality of your language learning habits. So start today. Just make one simple daily habit and make sure you get that little 1% increase in any of your language skills. And over the course of time, you're going to thrive. And it's not going to just be, well, my German hasn't gotten so rusty. It's going to be, my German has gotten better and better every year. And this is all it takes. Okay, I really hope that you guys enjoyed that. I hope you got value from it. Please leave me a comment if you have any thoughts or reflections, anything at all. I love hearing from you. And I just really hope that this is going to be valuable for everybody, because I just think it's so doable and it opens up a door for thriving. I want you to be successful every year with your languages.